that they come here without any regard for us, our way of life, our struggles, our sacrifice. They don't even care to speak to the likes of us.
The play itself, you can tell by the name, is set in Charcoal Creek, which is now Unanderra in Wollongong. That's really important about what Marcel's writing, is he's not writing a historical play where we can look back at the 19th century and go, well, that happened then. What he's actually trying to do is actually making us think about it now. And there's lots of references to sort of contemporary events such as the Cronulla riots, which is a very kind of clear example. The play deals with the issues of, I suppose, xenophobia and how much that's been a part of our Australian psyche for so long.
They don't like us, do they? Edward and I. Their faces are so hostile. I'm spending good money and they look at me as if I'm a Chinaman.
He's sort of, I suppose, using the 19th century and what happened in the 19th century at Charcoal Creek in this historical footnote when settlements were supposedly burnt as a place to sort of launch from and actually to explore how we resist change, how we resist the invasion of new cultures into our communities and into our country. And so it's very much a contemporary play in that way.
Do they believe it themselves? This nonsense my husband goes on with, the pioneer spirit, the hope of the empire, the pride of the white races. Do you believe it? Do you think of yourself as a gentleman of some kind because your father slaughtered some blacks?
Coming to a very, very new environment which was alien to Europeans, and this other thing which we don't talk about because we don't really know how, of actively dispossessing Indigenous people.
So I was glad for his sake that this fellow didn't put me in the position of having to restrict my conversation to piss off out of it, you pommy bludger.
One of the characters, Edward, and his wife, they've come from England to establish the railway or be part of that building of the railway.
As he talked of house and land packages, I looked into his eyes. I saw quite clearly this fellow has no idea what the property will be worth once we put the railroad through. Quite beautiful here, isn't it? The light.
What do you suppose the view would be like without those trees?
Spectacular.
What's it like playing Brigid? First of all, it's a real honour because it's a very chunky role written for a woman. She's a very deep and layered and rich character. To the outside world, Brigid is a dairy farmer, a woman who is troubled by her nightmares.
But the rain is sitting just behind my eyes, trembling with the fever of this evil dream that had the ring of being true in the world, somehow. I always seem to hear that ring long after waking.
Well, I'm really anti-dumbing things down for audiences. I think people are smarter than we give them credit for. I think it's wonderful that people can come to the theatre and have to engage really intellectually and emotionally so that the experience is richer.
Personally, I think any director's vision has to be really to support the intention of the playwright. That's often easier said than done. I think that, we've got a really fantastic new work on our hands here, and it's about really getting to the bottom of what Marcel is trying to say, what his story is, and how best to represent that on stage.
In Wollongong, you say?
Yes, the company accommodates him there.
Forgive my intrusion.
That's quite all right. Please communicate my best regards to your husband.
Oh, I will speak with him.
Thank you, Mrs. Reed.
Not at all, Mrs. Staunton.
Nosy little McFishwife.
Mind the pig shit, princess.
Charlotte!
Oh, Brigid, for the last time.
You are a snob.
Would you be a Christian?
I think we're a country that's very much moved forward into the future without a lot of self-reflection. And how much of our history do we actually acknowledge, and how much do we think about where we've come from?
I guess what I hope is that people understand the story at a human level. That there's 4 individuals on stage who have certain relationships, they want certain things, and that those things are recognisable.
If they were to hear a whisper on the breeze regarding our boy's ancestry, what's to stop it in this heavy air from building to a storm and breaking upon him?
If you hadn't grown up there or whatever, you were always seen as an outsider. So regardless of whether you'd lived somewhere for 20 years or not, you were never going to be a true local. And I think some people would say that that still applies today in more regional areas of Australia, that if you actually haven't got sort of really firm roots there, then you're always going to be an outsider, and that can be quite difficult. Those stories from that time of 140, 50 years ago are still as relevant today.